Hey, good afternoon to my aftermarket brethren all across the world, especially here in North America. Carm Capriato Town Hall Academy, episode 284. Glad to have you here. Wow, I'm excited about this one because this is a very heavy topic, and I think a topic that maybe can change some lives out there. If what our shop owners and all of our, as I said, brethren in the aftermarket listen very intently and then take a couple of great talking points away and do something about it. That's what we do. Advance the aftermarket each and every week with over 8 podcasts now within the Aftermarket Radio Network. We're coming to you live from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast studio. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Shopware, for providing this each and every week. Let's take a look at this really sexy panel that I have here. Interesting. Golly.
You need to get your eyes examined.
And you're going to say, and I'm going to learn a bunch from these guys. And the answer is yes, you are. Bill Nalu, Interstate Auto Care, Madison Heights, Michigan. Hello, William.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, my friend. Good to have you here. Jim Hayes, General Manager, Pacific Motor Service, Monterey and Pacific Grove, California. Hey, Jim.
Hello, Carm. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. God's country out there, huh? How's the jazz in Monterey?
The Jazz Festival in Monterey is pretty darn good, as far as I know. Not a jazz guy.
Whatever, but it's music and it's live. People actually playing instruments.
It brings the crowd. I live about 2 miles from the fairgrounds, and it's pretty rowdy out there every once in a while when it comes to town.
I bet you. Rob Choicier's Automotive Service, Davidsonville, Maryland. Hello, Bob, Robert, Bob, Rob. I just good.
Just don't call me late for dinner, Carm.
I won't, Rob. Thank you so much. Good to have you here. Hey, before we jump into this topic today, I've got 2 things I want to cover. I want to tell you that if you're with us on social media at all, please check in with your city, give us a like, make a comment. We're on all the social media platforms, and I want to give a high five to our great sponsor, Shopware. Are you using the best innovative shop management system in the country? Well, why should you make life harder? Shopware stays one step ahead of everyone else by listening to shops and solving problems fast. Get shopware.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. This coming Tuesday, Dale Wormuth, Leon's Car Care Center, Eureka, California. We're going to see inside of his shop. Dale and I are going to talk a little bit of business, and that's this Tuesday on Aftermarket Weekly. And what's going on next Friday? Identify your ideal customer with Joe Marconi, Marty Long, and Brian Lagus. I saw Joe give an hour-long presentation on this. A Town Hall Academy may not even do justice to Joe's concepts on this, but I think you're going to learn so much about the 80-20 rule when it comes to finding and dealing with your best customers. Now, look, everyone, I want to remind everyone that each and every year, Apex puts out these incredible honors and awards for service, for Shop Owner of the Year, for Technician of the Year, and Service Advisor of the Year, and it is launched aapexshow.com/service awards on Wednesday, August 31st. That's the deadline. So just about nearly maybe 7 weeks away. And if you can't think about someone inside the industry, a friend of yours, someone inside your company that is deserving of this honor and to be presented at the keynote speech at Apex this coming November, then you're not paying attention to the world around you. Bill, Norm Schultz from your company in 2020.
Yeah,
in 2020.
He's still riding high over
He's still riding high over
Absolutely.
the Technician of the Year. Honor. Technician of the Year. So listen, I'm gonna ride this horse really hard over the next 7 weeks, and in every show that we do that's live, I'm going to remind the world about these great Apex awards. Please do me a favor. If you care about the aftermarket and advancing it as much as I do, let's nominate some peoples out there. Okay, let's start our segment A, Bill. 30 years ago, you told, oh, by the way, we're calling this, are you selling experience or price? But really what we're talking about is we're selling the customer experience, but we were titling this How to Make Price Irrelevant. But I think there's 2 takes on this thing. Is it about price or is it about, customer experience? But Bill, you told me that 30 years ago you learned a big lesson.
Yeah. Well, Carm, you can call it whatever you want. This motley crew. I'm afraid where we're going to go here in the next hour. So with that said, you've heard this 1,000 times from me. The greatest lesson I ever learned was from my boss, who didn't even have a high school education, and I was having some trouble with a customer, and he was watching this, and he said to me the words that I will never ever forget. I could dedicate a book over this. And he said, Bill, he said, either you lead the customer through the transaction, or they lead you. If you lead the customer, you have a chance at a win-win proposition. If you let them lead you, it's definitely a lose-lose proposition. And is there anybody that can disagree with it? I mean, it's so simple. And most of life's greatest lessons are anchored in elegant simplicity, whereby you find, this is the second talking point that we may get to, is also how it is that somebody who's an old-fashioned kind of person, my old-fashioned person was that Fred Meyer, the Meyer franchise, the Meyer grocery store king. This was the predecessor to Walmart, even. A simple man who understood what kindness and what a blessing it is to have a customer walk in the door, lost, not knowing what to even ask. And we are entrusted to guide them through this transactional looking process that, if you do it the right way, turns into an incredible relationship, one that is so blessed that you end up meeting other family members. And if you're so lucky to be able to do this for as long as we've been doing it, you're in many cases invited to the funerals of that first customer that invited you, who is a grandfather now, right?
It's literally brilliant. And I think what we should do is stop the show right now. And that's it, guys. Jim, Rob,
Good.
Thanks for being here. And that's it. Okay. But let's build on that, because if I was sitting, I've been in this how mood lately. Every show that we've been doing, we're talking about concepts and principles and strategies. And I want my listener to say, oh, great, thank you. But how do I launch? How do I jump over that line? And in a thought, guys, and tell me I'm right or wrong, but if you were going to have this, making price irrelevant, customer experience over price, the mentality of the counter, the people's at our counter, the culture of the company, the happy employee thing, that all breeds down to that relationship. Should we not? And here's my how idea. It's an idea. Can we have our people, even a card behind the counter that says, hey, remember, we're here to build trust, value, safety, quality, caring. And if we were going over that every time the phone rang and the smiles were put on and someone walked in, even a legacy customer that has trusted us for years, you got to earn that every time. If not, they won't come back, right? Is it possible, guys, that the how to make price irrelevant is just being able to have the right frame of mind in every moment of every transaction? Jim, I know you believe in that.
Well, I think the important part is obviously experience. I worked at Pebble Beach for quite a few years back in the day, and part of their mission statement is basically to exceed the expectation of every guest every time. And that starts from when they call you on the phone. You have to set yourself apart from the competitor. When they walk in the door, whichever department they're walking into, it has to set them. That experience has to start then. We had a lady. I was downstairs in the front office this morning talking to the people, and one of the guests walk in and said, "Hey, look at all these smiles." She said, "This literally happened 2 hours ago." And we've got really good front counter staff that smile and they enjoy where they are. I even let one guy bring his bird to work because it makes him smile. He likes it. And as long as it doesn't eat anyone, I'm fine. But it really starts with having the right people in the front office to answer the phones and to greet the client so that they can feel that there's a difference in this place and in the competitor. And you've all called the competitors, and sometimes you can't even understand what they're saying. So we spend a lot of time getting the right people that are willing, not just willing to smile, but it's their nature to smile. It's critical.
Yeah. Did you notice how what Jim said there right at the end is the key to it? It's in their nature. And that is why it's so difficult to train people for this. It's impossible to train. Can you imagine trying to take a technician who has been beaten down in 30 years of wrenching, and at this point, his back is gone, shoulders are barely there, right? He manages to be able to learn to type 30 words a minute now, and he's cleaned himself up. And now you're going to put him into a situation that he didn't want to do for 30 years, and we wonder why that doesn't work.
It makes it hard.
And I'm stereotyping. Obviously, I'm painting with a broad brush. But we wonder why it is that this square peg doesn't fit in the round hole.
But it can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can.
If the culture of your company is truly a servant culture, then you can train anybody to be nice. If it's in their heart already, if it's inherent to who they are as an individual, you don't need to train nearly as hard. But if you show them the outcome that's desired for themselves and then ultimately for the consumer, then you can train anybody to do it.
Robert, do you think that there's a situation, and that occurs, and if I may just challenge that respectfully, do you think that there may be a situation sometimes where you take that tech and they don't understand the value that they're providing? They don't understand what the value looks like at $159, $169, $189 an hour, because they know sort of how easy it comes to them, right? How can I charge $560 for this starter job when I know, in fact, we've got this involved in it, and this takes me 20 minutes to do because I've been doing it blindfolded for 30 years. It's funny how you take somebody who is a bank secretary, you pluck him or her in there, and they outsell the technician by 4 or 5-fold.
It's true, because they don't have the experiences on the other side of the equation. Okay. But you can take that technician if you actually educate them and show them the reasons we need to charge X for a job. If you you educate them in the training, the taxes, the overhead. If you really go through the business of the business, you can train your GS to be good on the front counter. You can train your shop foreman. You can train your C-Tech, B-Tech, A-Tech, anyone, if you are transparent and truly educate them and train them in the position that you want them to be in.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to be in that position, well, then they're not on the right seat of the bus, right? But you can certainly train anyone to sit in any seat if they're open to the training. Yeah. And that's the thing. You have to be open to the opportunity that's presented to you. Yeah. Just like every car or every phone call, if we're not open to that opportunity, it's not going to come in the door. I don't care how much you smile.
Yeah. Do you notice how the conversation goes around? It goes to us telling the technician, so this is what we have to make, and this is the gross profit that we have to have, whatever. And that there's nothing wrong with that. But in contrast, you pluck somebody in who has no automotive background, and you say to them, this is what it's going to cost. And they go and say to the customer, yep, it's going to be $2,400. The great news is we can finance it if you don't have it in the budget, and it'll be done by 5:30 this afternoon here. Is there anything that's going to prevent you from getting this authorized today? And it gets done. And they do this over and over and over again because they have no other restrictions that have been placed before them. It's almost like the experience is in many cases, the negative experience around what it costs to fix a car and all the years of being beaten down by how much things cost. And nowhere in this do we agree with the customer and say, you're absolutely right, Robert. I can't believe how much electricity is costing and how much gas is costing and how much employees and payroll and taxes and stuff. And so I guess my question, Robert, is, will that be cash or credit? And they're like, well, yeah, they got it off their chest. And obviously I'm oversimplifying the process, but it's like we're our own worst enemies in this regard.
I need to stop this conversation for a moment and ask this question. How many, Bill, and you're really trying to draw an analogy between a technician growing up into the service world, and I continue to hear from everyone, people coming from the hospitality business, Jim, they're not selling from their wallet. They're not selling from anything that they would know and not understand, meaning it takes me 20 minutes to do this job. Why are we charging $146? And it's the ROI on the business that's so critical. People don't know, no matter if you go in and buy a dress at Macy's and you're paying $100, they think, they don't understand that they may only make $20 on that dress because of all the costs and the return that they need to have. So I would love to put a bow on that philosophy that technicians may not necessarily, no disrespect, make the best service advisors. And let's move on as to how we can make what we currently have at our counter make price irrelevant. So Jim, let's talk about this whole experience. Leave the experience for the customer. I mean, is it warm? Is it friendly? Isn't it cheerful? The minute price comes up, we need to talk about how long you keep in your car, talk about safety and value. I think there's such quick ways to disarm the customer.
Well, I think we go into it kind of head first. We're not the cheapest in town. In fact, we're probably top 25%. There's many layers to this, but what the customer has to buy into is the understanding that we're the experts, that we have the best staff. And if you can set yourself apart from the moment that they walk in the door, maybe the moment before they walk in the door, when they talk to you on the phone, that they already know that you're the genius in the room, not me specifically, but the company as a whole, that when they come in, they're going to be taken care of at such a high level, price doesn't ever become the issue. Now, it's always something of a factor when you talk about that $2,500 repair, that $700 repair, the $8,000. I had a guy downstairs that sold a $16,000 suspension repair on a Subaru Baja the other day. How does that happen? I don't know. But the staff that we have in place have embraced our hospitality atmosphere, and we sell them and market them as being the experts. And for instance, in our Monterey shop, we have a guy down there who's hyper enthusiastic about cars. It's his mission in life to save all vehicles from their owners. And what that means is if the car's not immaculately taken care of, he's offended. And he doesn't show that necessarily to the client. But this is a guy who drives around. He's a 28-year-old guy. He drives around an 1988 Cressida that's in mint condition. And he views the world through that lens. It's my job to save these cars from the client. I'm going to treat the client. He's a super gregarious, outgoing guy, smiles. And when he walks in the door, he's magnetic. And the way he speaks and the way he talks to the client about their car, he just sucks them into the whole maintenance and repair idea and how that can save them money down the road. And he shows them his 1988 car, et cetera, and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that'll save them. So when it does become part of the concept of the conversation of price, he also folds into that the mix of the savings that upfront cost will bring. So I think the combination of him as a personality, his passion and purpose, where they intersect, and then the way he produces that atmosphere of let's call it salvation for the vehicle, really brings the client into a space where they're not so much worried about the price. They're enthusiastic about keeping what they have for long term. And that's really valuable.
I got to stop. Guys, I don't know, but I wrote the word genius down. Thank you, Jim, for that. Come to us because we're the car genius. We know, we understand everything that you would possibly not know, because the only thing you know to do is ask me what price is. The reason you come here goes way, way beyond that. Sure, you're going to pay me something to fix this car, but we're going to fix it right because, don't Google your problem. Google us. Let us Google. We're your Google, and we're the genius. And one other thing that I wrote, because I want to try to confirm some of these thinks that are going on, is that you're taking price right out of the equation because your service advisor wants to have their car like his car, be like me.
Yeah.
So when you have this be like me mentality, Rob, then you take it over, you handle it, and that customer just looks at you and says they go from high, bold, italic positioning to, I trust this guy or this girl.
Correct. When you can put the persona out there that we have your back. We are your car's advocate. We're here to support you. We're here to serve you and get you the most out of your vehicle. Then, and we can do that. That's the thing, is when you can deliver on that, you do have the highly trained staff. You do have the processes and things in place to do it efficiently. So you start to deliver on that, because everybody that comes in, especially if they're new, they've divorced some other shop. They're looking for a new opportunity because they've been impacted negatively someplace else, or they're traveling. There's other variables. But if they're in your community and they come to you and they're older than 16, they've been to some other shop with their automobile. And when they come to you, they're looking for a better opportunity than where they have been before, but they're not sure what that opportunity clearly looks like. So you'll get those. How much is it? Can you give me a price on this job or that job or the other job? And you can't give a price because you don't know what condition it truly is in. You don't know who worked on it last time, what parts were used on it last time. And anybody that does those phone quotes, you're really shooting from the hip without a good knowledge base. You have your own experiences that you're bringing to that conversation, but you don't know the condition of that car. We kind of explain it. I can have 4 2010 Honda Accords come in. They're all silver. They all have 80,000 miles on them. They're all in different states of repair. One was driven by grandma. One was driven by the 18-year-old. One just came back from being overseas. And one was just bought, but it was bought from Detroit, and it's in Florida. Well, Florida, you don't have rust issues, but this car just came from Detroit. It's got rust issues. You don't know until you look at an automobile what true condition it's in, so you definitely can't provide an accurate estimate. But what you can tell the consumer or the customer or the guest, if you actually get them through your door, is we can fix it. We can guide you. We are experts, and we're here to help you.
Hey guys, I want to stop for a minute, give another high five to our great sponsor, Shopware. Do you want to grow your car count just a little higher, or maybe you're dreaming bigger and want to open another shop? Well, trust Shopware to provide the system that you've been waiting for to make it happen. Talk to Carolyn and all my friends at getshopware.com. I love where this is going, but I have a really important question. What's the percentage of that phone call that comes in or that walk-in that's new and looking for a new trusted shop? Because as you said, Rob, they divorced someone. And if that's 2 out of 10 as an example, then the mode of training that we need to go into it's Bill, and God, I've heard you, Bill, you're so good in the face of the customer in building that trust level by taking over the conversation. If you're looking for a trusted shop to care for your vehicle and to make it as reliable based on the current cost today, well, thanks for coming here. I know we're going to prove to you that this, you won't have to go to another place ever again. Does that take price out of the issue?
Yeah, Jim said something earlier that I agree with in principle, but in application, I offer a different perspective. And this is sort of how this goes here. He said something about the fact that we know we're not the cheapest place in town. I guess on price, if we judge ourselves on the price of the I don't know, maybe the labor rate or something like that, why can't we be the cheapest place in town? Why can't we be the shop that says to the customer, "Hey, congratulations, you found us"? And then if the conversation doesn't move to repairs, and which is what 90% of the time it does, if we're still focusing on price and the customer absolutely insists now, and they've got 2 different estimates, and now they've got your labor rate, all this other stuff, why can't we say, is it possible that $159 entry door rate could be cheaper than $49 an hour? And listen to what that person, because if that person says, well, explain to me how so, then we can go into the subject in which we can say, what do you get, by the way, for half the, so let's suppose our brake job is, we got $800 or something like that for this brake job. and you think that you can get this done for $400. So you're just going to have the fronts done and not the rears. Do you still have a vehicle that's drivable at this point? What that customer's input in that conversation, it means everything, because then at that point in time, you know whether they're just locked into price, or whether they'll even have a discussion out of price at that point. Because I frankly have never met a customer who wants to do something as cheap as I can do it. And I've offered, I've said as much. Carm, you and I have talked about this. I've had stories where after all is said and done, I've taken away parts and labor and what have you. After all is said and done, I've offered to do it for free. And he's like, well, what's the catch? I said, well, why do you think there's a catch? He says, because there always is one. And the catch is, I'll give you the warranty. I'll have a master technician working on the car. They'll top rated parts. The only catch is I can't get to it right now in April. You got to leave it with me till Christmas, because that's when somebody can't, nobody's fixing their cars in Christmas time. And they look at you sideways going, what, are you crazy? I need this for work for tomorrow. And so how interesting. Price is actually the last thing that we talk about. It's the least important thing after we've decided what parts are going to go on the car and who's been working on the car and how long we've been in business and what our warranty is and whether there's loaner cars or whether there's financing available. After all that crap is done, then price comes in really. But no, we're going to let the customer come in with price, and we're going to engage. We're going to wrestle this pig in mud. And I don't mean the customer is a pig. I mean, you walk into shops out there that have a sign behind. This happened to me years ago. The sign behind the door says, arguing with our counter people is much like wrestling a pig in mud. After a while, you realize the pig is actually enjoying himself. So that's who that's who this person is comparing us to, right? We employ the best people in our industry.
But
and
Bill,
we're sitting here, we're trying to justify to the customer.
Bill, they're not your customer.
Well, you'd be surprised, Carm, how many times. I mean, I'm not the best converter of phone calls in the world. I know I'm not. But it's amazing what happens when you ask that Barry Barrett type question, when you say to that customer, so you want a price? Okay, I'll give you a price. Before I give you my price, what do you think this is going to cost? And it's amazing what they tell you, right? I think this brake job is going to be $250, right? Okay, so would you be interested in knowing whether it's just a rear brake job? Would you be interested in finding out whether this vehicle needs other work? Well, I should hope so. I'm not going to put money into a car that needs $2,000 worth of work elsewhere. Well, how about we find this out? How about before we talk about your brake job, why don't we get your vehicle in for a courtesy check so we can verify that you don't need $1,500 worth of front end work and you don't need $2,500 worth of engine work and $3,300 of transmission work. We're not having this conversation on the phone with the customer. And if they hang up the phone, they're gone. That's okay. That's not my customer. But amazingly, they're listening. There's somebody on the phone that's listening to you saying to them, so what's going through your head right now? Well, I didn't hear this from the other 5 places that I called today. Okay, so what is it that prompted you to not go to the guy that was going to do a $99 brake job? Well, I didn't believe that they could do a brake job for $99. Okay, that's very wise of you, Carm. What do you think it should cost? And as long as we're engaging with them, we have a chance of getting them into the real world, where we're going to have real conversations about what something's really going to cost, that we can back up with our reputation.
I just don't. I refuse to believe that Jim and Rob are speechless.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
There's so many angles to take this.
Yeah. Well, look at guys. Let's do this. Since this topic is about experience, and we could talk about all the ways to take a person off top dead center when it comes to price. Let's talk and let's teach our industry what that experience really means, so that price just goes away.
We try to, sorry to cut you off, but we
No.
try to foster an environment where they aren't, A, they're not surprised by the price, and B, maybe A, it doesn't come up, and B, they're not surprised by it. We also try to convert, and to answer Carm's question, how many new clients am I looking for a week? I'm looking for 25%. I want 10 out of 40 clients that walk through the door to be new, and we spend enough time on those clients on the phone, so our phone conversion rate's about 30%, which is pretty good for the industry. And on top of that, if I can get 4 out of 10 people I'm sorry, 2.5 out of 10 people to walk in the door new that have divorced a shop or haven't come, or they're new to the area, or they're traveling through the area to meet the people on the front counter. A, they don't want to leave because it's an engaging environment. And B, they don't even start questioning price unless they're consumers. So we have this process we call the 3 C's that Kevin, our owner, either came up with or stole from someone else or someone. But basically, it starts from consumer. We transition them from consumer to customer to client. And a consumer is your price fighter. They price check. They call 3 other shops. They come in and they question all the nuts and bolts and why the price is what it is. So we can start to vet on the phone, of course, but once we get them in the door, and I want everybody to walk through the door because then they start to understand what the price is going to be. Just like when you walk through the doors at Pebble Beach, you know you're not going to pay $100 for that round of golf and $25 for that dinner, but you walk in there expecting the experience and you're willing to pay it when you walk out the door. So when they come in, we can start to convert them from consumer to customer. And that consumer is going to be super price conscious. He might bring in that $50 coupon for an oil service, but after a visit or two, he becomes a customer and he understands the game. He understands why it's important to maintain the vehicle properly, the costing that you're going to incur over the lifetime of a vehicle. And we preach 20 to 25 years, 200 to 250,000 miles. So he starts to understand. And then after 2 or 3 or 4 or a half a dozen visits, they become clients. And then the family starts to come in as a client and they leave credit cards and car keys. And that's our goal when we check them in, because it's, hey, Rory, good to see you. Here's your cookies and here's the car keys and a credit card. And we try to convert them from consumers to clients over the course of a year or two so that that relationship becomes the reason why they come. And now it's no longer really about the price at all. We don't talk about price. Go ahead.
Jim, I'm inspired by consumer, customer, client, and we want to convert them into a client. And I made you say what, 18 months, or I can't remember what you said.
It depends. I mean, sometimes they'll walk in the door and they're already a client because they're that sort of a person. But yeah, anywhere from 3 visits to 6 visits, let's say.
Okay, 3 to 6. So here's what I would love to know. Knowing that person enters as a consumer and we're willing to build them into a client, some come up fast, some don't. How do you manage that timeline? How do we know as a service advisor, as an owner, as a manager, is there any CRM program that says, hey, they've been here this many times? And are we just going for the feel? What's the strategy to build them into a client?
There's no strategy because everybody's different, right? You may walk in the door and you link action right away with our service advisor. You're now a client. It might be on the phone call. You may be someone who declines everything on your car forever and you're going to be a customer forever, a consumer rather. And we don't eliminate anyone. We kind of tell them what we do here. This is how we do it. This is the experience you're going to expect. This is the way we deliver our message. And we believe we can be the best in the world at diagnosing, collecting information, disseminating that information. This is what we do. So we talk to them a lot about what we do and how we do it and why we do it up front. And if this is what you like, this is what you're going to get. And if this is not what you like, then awesome. Jiffy Lube's down the road and there's Midas and whatever. Please feel free to go there because this is what you're going to get here. And it's not for everyone, but if they want to become a consumer and stay a consumer and have a relationship of a consumer, you can still be a friendly consumer. You're not a jerk. You're just not going to fix your car. We don't eliminate them. We just spend way less time on them over the course of 6 or 7 visits. We know that they're not going to approve the tires or the suspension work, but they will do the brakes, whatever. So we treat them accordingly. We don't spend a ton of time while the clients come in, and now it's like a family relationship. Now we really spend a lot of time, and you talked about the 80-20, the Pareto principle earlier. We really spend 80% of our time on the 20 or 30 or 40% of the clients that are going to get keep the lights on, let's say. But we treat everyone with the same level of respect and enthusiasm, regardless of whether they want to remain a consumer or become a client.
So the people at your counter have the confidence, Rob, they have the confidence that we are going to make this consumer a client. And if not, they're going to go nicely down the road, but we're still going to give them the greatest experience they ever had as if they were a client.
Yes, we treat everyone as if they are a client, whether they're a consumer or a customer. And through that process, and just like Jim was saying, we know exactly, to put it in Chick-fil-A world, we know exactly how we cook our chicken sandwich. And everybody's on board with why we cook our chicken sandwich that way, how we cook our sandwich that way, and what that means for the consumer or the customer or the client. We do it this way every time. And because of that, the team has continuity in whether you're a consumer first time or you're a 20-year client, you expect that. And when we deliver on that, your trust takes 20 years to build and 5 minutes to disseminate. But you can never compromise that trust, never compromise that integrity by making sure that you follow the same process each and every time, each and every customer. There are no extra customers. There may be customers that don't agree with your process. They don't agree with your philosophy on automobiles or your plan for their automobile. They have that opportunity to make their own choices. But us as guides, we need to guide them the same way on every time.
Got it. Hey, Nathan, good to have you here all the way from Scotland. It's always great to see Nathan hanging with us, and it's evening over in Scotland. Can you imagine? Hey, guys, I want to take another really quick break, and I want to come back, and I do want to kind of make sure you guys hit all the talking points that you brought that maybe we didn't cover. Hey, you have to see Shopware's Messenger in action to believe it. It's really amazing. You can use live chats to send photos, videos, part summaries, and even payments. And you can do all this inside of a repair order. Amazing that. Unbelievable, right? It's refreshing. It's exciting. On the web at getshopware.com. Hey, don't forget apexshow.com/service awards. The service award nominations are up until the end of August. Shop owner, technician, and service advisor of the year. This particular past week, we launched a brand new podcast on the Aftermarket Radio Network, the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast from Brian and Kim Walker, a great husband and wife team. They were in the shop business. Brian was a Mercedes Master Tech, and they have this incredible agency that helps and exclusively works for shop owners. So we're really, really happy. There's 3 episodes out there. Find them on all your favorite podcast listening apps or on aftermarketradionetwork.com. Okay, guys, again, thank you so much for being here. Jim.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I wanted to go to you, Rob. You were telling me that there's this desired outcomes are priceless in how you deal with your customers. Cover that for us.
So desired outcomes is, people want to have freedom. They want to have continuity. They want to have, what did I actually say? It's freedom, efficiency, excitement, recognition, safety, utility, and exploration. That's why people buy automobiles. Those, 6 or 7 reasons. And when they lose the ability to pursue those, that's when they end up in your shop. When they, feel the loss of freedom because they go out to start their car and the battery's dead, or they start consuming more fuel, or their check engine light comes on, or their neighbor gets a better car and they want their car to look better. So they come to you for different wheels or different things like that. Is when people start to lose those pieces of their life, then they will come to look for you. But those are priceless. People spend and lose an enormous amount of money buying a car or repairing a car to regain those losses.
Bill, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
We spend time actually discussing not all of those exactly, but those sorts of things with the clients when they come in the door too.
Yeah.
This is what you're here for, and this is what we're going to promote, and this is what we're going to extend to you over the course of the next however many years this relationship lasts, hopefully forever. But that's a good point to bring into that conversation right away, so that they now, because sometimes they come in, they don't know why they're there. They don't know those. They don't have that list, but they know the list. They just don't have it at the tip of their tongue, let's say. So we start to bring that sort of an item into the conversation right away, so that they kind of understand, and we can
Yeah.
have that level of a conversation that most shops won't have.
What are their pain points? And
Exactly.
then what did they lose that landed them in your shop? They lost confidence in their automobile.
Sure.
Carmen and I've had this conversation, on another call, but it's car pain, it's enduring confidence, it's convenience. If you lose your vehicle, you lose convenience in your life.
I think you wrote something about loss aversion, right? People hate to lose more than they like to gain. So if you can fight that, or fit your product into that, the prevention of loss, then you're going to be a winner.
Correct.
By the way, just to promote Robert's episode with me, was Remarkable Results 656. It was back in July 21. Ask, what are your car pains? And it was a great, just a great episode, Rob. Thank you so much for that. In fact, he's got that trademarked. Isn't that cool? And when I think about, if I was walking in for my first relationship, and Bella, and if I was crazy enough to ask how much, and someone took me off top dead center and said, so what's the car for? Is it work? Is it pleasure? Is it hunting? Is it camping? Is it, is it daycare? What is it? Wow. I mean, this guy, because what he wants to do, what the orthopedic surgeon says, oh, you're playing soccer, we've got to treat this wound or this injury so much differently in how we get you back up on your feet than anything. And I think, to me, there's a major secret.
Yeah. Is it a tool for your life, or is it a toy for pleasure? Those are the two differentiating factors of your automobile. Some people, they combine them. That car needs a lot more maintenance. It's being used for multiple purposes. It's off-road on the weekends, but it's the shuttle driver during the week. So you have to figure out, how is this car being used? Is it your primary or is it your secondary? And once you get to that level of conversation, the consumer, the client, or the customer, they realize that you are really trying to figure out and help guide them. You are their advocate, and ultimately their vehicle's advocate.
Yeah. To say nothing of the fact that they may be an emotional attachment. Might have been dad's car, right? Mom's car.
Yeah.
As you were talking, Robert, earlier, I don't know why I thought about sort of veterinary clinics. What does it look like when somebody comes in? They've got a 15-year-old pet. Do we put, how do you have a conversation? Is your relationship with your client strong enough such that you can have a very uncomfortable conversation, be it about, maybe, it's time that we start thinking about getting out of this vehicle here, because I think it's going to be more expensive for you to keep it. How do you feel about that here? Well, it's mom's car. I think we're going to end up keeping it for all. Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to continue to remind you, Robert, that this vehicle, at 224,000 miles on the vehicle here, you're going to start accruing some expenses that you may not be able to get back, because if you crash this vehicle, it's only worth $2,000 Blue Book value. So if we put $3,000 or $4,000 into it, I'm okay with doing that. I'm here to do what you want me to do. But just please understand, we're having this conversation because I'm thinking about this, because to me, you're my customer, not the car. I mean, we're working on your car. But our relationship has to remain intact, because I have to think about this car repair as if it was my own. I have to look at things that you may not be looking at right now, because the customer might be emotional about something. It could be a conversation about how you found he found a blunt, and his son was driving the car, son or daughter. Are you willing to have a conversation with mom or dad about this relationship? And if you're not, then it may be that this relationship isn't strong enough. I don't have a problem having a conversation, father to father, father to mother, about what's going on here and why it is that I feel, why I give myself permission to have a conversation about this. And I don't have to tell you gentlemen about this, but these are the moments that infuse. I mean, I had a young man here that towed his car in for something, and he found us online, and he just bought the car a few weeks ago. As I'm asking him questions, I find out he bought the car cash. He bought it from somebody he didn't verify as the owner of the vehicle. He says, well, I have the title. I said, well, who signed it? He goes, well, it was already signed before. So as we're walking through all this stuff, he starts to get scared about whether he bought a lemon. I said, well, we're going to find this out. But the good news is you're never going to make that mistake again, because that only happens one time. And I said, by the way, that's my story too. When I was 16 years old, that's what happened to me. And this, my whole world changed. The reason I have this business is because of that. You don't think this has become a client? Like, as Jim was saying, this becomes a client right then and there at that point in time. I would have to work extra hard to lose this client as a lifelong client from this point on.
Well, you've mentored them. And through mentorship, you've built trust, which establishes relationship,
Yeah.
and it takes the transaction away.
Yeah.
When you establish relationship, the transaction becomes secondary because there's a trust there that you can stand on. You built a foundation of trust, and that foundation of trust, you can, every other interaction, every other transaction is built on this trusting relationship.
And by the way, God help you if you meet a customer that says, you ask them, how do they find you? Well, I've tried a dozen other shops around town, and every single one of them has ripped me off. God help you if you take on that client before you establish whether it's on them or whether it's on the other shops. And I'd like to think this is on the, you've been married 12 times, and every single time it's the wrong girl. Okay, it's the girl. All right. We're going to do this the 11th time. Okay. No.
Sometimes we're just the next idiot in line.
Yeah.
Get in line.
You can vet those guys pretty fast, hopefully, right? By then.
Thank you so much to Nathan Adcock. He says it's like being a car counselor.
Yeah.
And what a again, I always look for these, if you will, these mental gems as you're getting ready to take the company's culture to a brand new customer. As Jim says, 25% of them every week got to come in the door, and we got to know how to play it. And nothing dishonest, nothing negative. The word play is not meant to be negative, but it's how do I build this interaction? Car counselor and all these other great ideas. What's the family all about? What's the occupation, the recreation, the dreams of that customer? And if we're out there wanting to say, could this be my new best friend? Wow. Well, how do you start to build a relationship like that? Price is irrelevant.
Well, Carm, it's like emergency services. Okay, an EMT meets you on your worst day of your life. Paramedic, whatever, ER doctor, they always meet you in an emergent situation. Well, when somebody brings their car in, if they're not a client, they're that first-time customer, we're meeting them on an emergent situation. So they need to have confidence that we're going to assess them, look at the scope of the situation, and address it appropriately. That's professionalism. But if everyone on your team doesn't bring that the same way, then your team does not have continuity. It does not have integrity. You can have integrity. Your master tech can have integrity. Your shop foreman can have integrity. Your writer manager, your front counter assistant, your parts manager, all these people can have personal integrity. But if they aren't unified in the way that they present your product, the way they look at this situation, then your product, I'm sorry, does not have integrity. When is a car beyond repair? When is a car you're putting good money after bad? What can we expect a car to last? Jim said 20 or 25 years. Well, you can't get 25 years out of a car in Bill's neighborhood. It's not going to happen. We say in Maryland, 15 years or 300,000 miles. We get people way past that. We have people approaching 500,000 miles. Original engines, original transmissions through maintenance. There's so many variables across the country and around the world. However, if you know your market and everyone in your shop understands your environmental challenges, then they can guide anybody in your community to success with their automobile.
Yeah. Well, look at guys. Bill Connor, thank you so much for all the great chatter in social media. Appreciate that. And Nathan and Mike, I think Mike Dela Cruz was with us. a lot of great people hanging out. Thank you so much. This will come out as a podcast next Thursday. And Bill and Robert have had so many great things to say. Jim, I want to wrap up the show and give you the last word.
A lot of pressure there. I think when it comes down to making price irrelevant, it's really about what both Robert and Bill said. It's about valuing the client, building a relationship. Trust is a foundation that you can't get easily, and it's hard to lose if you have it properly. And you've established that, then price won't be a long-term issue. Might start out as being an issue, but it will become irrelevant as that relationship develops.
Wow. So much to learn as we do these shows each and every week and all the podcasts to advance the aftermarket. I think there's a lot of learning here, a lot of inspiration as people will listen to this on their drive to and from work, in the shower, at the track, at the gym. That's where all the podcasts are listened to. So thanks, guys, so much. Bill Nalu, Interstate Auto Care, Madison Heights, Michigan. Jim Hayes, General Manager, Pacific Motor Service, Monterey and Pacific Grove, California. And Rob Choisier from Choisier's Automotive Service, Davidsonville, Maryland, who has that the pain point thing.
Car pain.
Car pain.
The car pain thing.
We eliminate car pain and keep you on the road of life.
Yeah, I know. Go and listen to that episode. That was really special. 656 remarkable results back in July of 21. Great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Well,
Carm.
great weekend, everybody.
Nice to
Take
meet you.
care. How far are you?